So let's talk about Pavel Durov, the super reclusive founder of Telegram. He's a figure of intense mystery. It's not just about his tech empire, but about this radical, almost monk-like protocol he uses to, well, engineer his own biology. And today, we're going to deconstruct that exact system. Okay, look at this. This is the visual that really sparked it all. On the left, that's Durov during his time at VK, the social network he founded back in Russia. And on the right, well, that's the man we see today. A chiseled, athletic icon who honestly looks more like a movie star than a tech CEO. The change is so dramatic, it's almost unbelievable. So this really leaves us with two huge questions. First, how is a transformation like this even possible? And second, what's the true cost? And I'm not just talking about money, but what's the cost in lifestyle and maybe even a piece of your humanity to get that level of control over your body and mind?
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the transformation itself. Then we'll dive into the core pillars of his system. We're talking his chemical strategy of asceticism, how he builds discipline through discomfort, the pretty controversial idea of ascetic engineering, and finally, the mental fortress of solitude he's built to maintain peak performance.
All right, section 1, the transformation. Durov went from being a pretty standard-looking tech founder to this global nomad and symbol of physical perfection. But to really get how he did it, you first have to understand the resources he's working with. With a net worth of over $15 billion, Durov is basically operating without the constraints that limit the rest of us. This kind of financial freedom lets him architect every single aspect of his life, from his diet to his environment, with absolute total precision. And that brings us to the first real pillar of his protocol, the chemistry of asceticism. Now, this isn't just about saying no to things. It's a calculated strategy to optimize his brain's biochemistry by just ruthlessly getting rid of any and all interference. I mean, the sheer scale and duration here are just incredible. For over 2 decades, Durov has systematically cut all of this out. This isn't some fad diet, it's a fundamental operating principle for him. No alcohol, no caffeine, no red meat, and absolutely no processed sugar. The origin story for this kind of discipline is fascinating. It all started when he was just 11 years old. He read a book from his teacher that explained how alcohol literally paralyzes and then kills your brain cells. And from that moment on, he just saw it as a poison, a direct attack on the most important tool he had. And this quote just perfectly sums up his whole philosophy. For Durov, the trade-off just doesn't make any sense. Why would you sacrifice long-term brain power and success for a quick, fleeting moment of pleasure? Everything is a cost-benefit analysis, and for him, that cost is way, way too high. But it doesn't stop with just cutting things out. He adds another layer of control with these super strict eating protocols. He does intermittent fasting, so all his meals are crammed into a tight 6-hour window. He's even gone on extended water fasts, claiming that eating literally zero food actually improves his mental clarity for managing his products. Okay, now we're getting to where things become truly extreme. This is where he forges his mental resilience by putting his body through intense, monotonous, and pretty uncomfortable physical stress. This isn't just about being fit, it's about training the mind.
So his day kicks off with this brutal, monotonous routine. 300 push-ups,
and then right after that, 300 squats. He's even admitted it can be boring, but that's the whole point. By conquering that monotony first thing in the morning, he believes any task at work just becomes way easier to handle. The key thing to see here is the relentless consistency. Those daily calisthenics, they're completely non-negotiable. And on top of that, he's in the gym for 1 to 2 hours, 5 to 6 times a week. There's practically no rest day. This quote, this is the key to understanding his entire physical routine. For him, the gym isn't really for building biceps. It's for training the muscle of self-discipline. He truly believes that once that is strong, every other goal just falls into place. And if all that wasn't enough, he throws in thermal shock. We're talking daily cold baths with water temperatures near freezing, which he then alternates with intense heat from traditional Banya sauna sessions. He calls it a few minutes of suffering for hours or even days of feeling great, plus the long-term health benefits. So this discipline then extends to what is, you could argue, the most controversial part of his transformation, aesthetic engineering. This is where that philosophy of total control is applied directly to his physical appearance. Now, it's really important to state this neutrally. Based on a lot of expert analysis online, there's widespread speculation that his look is the result of several cosmetic procedures. This includes things like a hair transplant, probably using the really advanced FUE method where follicles are moved one by one, rhinoplasty to reshape his nose, otoplasty to pin his ears back, and even fillers and Botox to get that sharp jawline.
But in true Durov fashion, none of this has ever been confirmed, and his silence on it all just adds to his mystique. So whether it's all natural, surgical, or some combination, the end result is this meticulously crafted public image that perfectly aligns with his principles of discipline and control. And finally, we get to his fortress of solitude. Because after engineering his body, he applies that same ruthless efficiency to engineering his mind and his environment for peak cognitive output. This right here is a fascinating paradox. The founder of one of the planet's biggest messaging apps believes that constant connectivity is actually the enemy of productivity. And he really practices what he preaches, minimizing his own phone use almost to zero, except, for testing Telegram features. In a total rejection of modern hustle culture, Durov sets aside a massive 11 to 12 hours every single day, not just for sleep, but for simply lying in bed and thinking. He claims his best ideas come from these long stretches of quiet, completely free from any digital noise. So to wrap up his mental engineering, he lives alone to avoid outside influence, he barely uses a phone so other people don't set his agenda, and, this is critical, he acts immediately on problems. He treats his mood as a result of action, not a requirement for it. It's actually a psychological technique called behavioral activation, where just doing something, anything, is the key to changing how you feel. So, what can we actually take away from this really extreme protocol? Well, first, define your non-negotiables. What's the one thing you can change to protect your most valuable asset, whether that's your mind, your body, or your time? Second, engineer a little bit of discomfort into your life to build up that resilience. And third, practice acting without waiting for motivation. Just choose one thing and start. And this all brings us to our final question. The Durov Protocol is, without a doubt, a testament to the limits of human will. But is this total control the ultimate form of freedom, the key to unlocking our potential? Or by getting rid of so much of what makes us human, spontaneity, pleasure, connection, does it just become a different kind of prison, a gilded cage that you've built for yourself? That's something to think about.